Hello guys, and welcome back to another MCreator tutorial. So today what we're going to be looking at is the create text with block. To find this block, you can find it under the text tab, and then it should be near the top here. And once you have this block, what you can do is you can customize the actions, like how many slots there are, through the gear icon right here. This is actually a little button, and you can add different items to what your specifications are for what you need. So why is this block so useful? This block is actually very useful because you can print out pretty much anything that you want in MCreator as a text or string. So this is basically useful for getting values that might not exist in procedure blocks. Like for example, if you were to print out a dimension, this provided dimension, this actually gets you a string of what the dimension is. So if you right click in a block in a particular dimension, you can get the type of namespace and registry for that dimension. This will allow you to create scripts that might be able to use commands like execute in and then the dimension itself. This can be handy when you need to actually place down certain blocks or certain things. Other things that you can do is basically convert numbers into basically strings as well. So if you need to convert something into a string, you can do this. This is one method if you need the exact decimal point and everything like that. Other things, it basically just treats it as any value that it comes into and converts it into text, which can be later stored as variables or pretty much anything you can think of. It will allow you to do anything with. So it's very handy for a lot of things, especially that. But we'll cover this provided block today. And we're going to go ahead and just remove that one item because we don't actually need to create multiple things on it. You can combine text as well. So if you have like a command or something that you need to fill out, you can actually do something like set and then block, and then you could do something like Minecraft. And then you could have your colon or something, or your namespace of that block could go down here. So basically you would get the registry of that block instead. So if we go to block, and I think it might actually be under item, and you could get the registry of that item, and then basically get the item or block like that. And then you could basically set the block. I think there might be a position after that for the location, but basically that will allow you to set a block and run a command and stuff like that. So pretty much you can use this anywhere that you can think that you would use a text value. This is treated as a text value as itself. So if we were to want to run a command like this accepts a text input, so we can actually put that here, and we would be able to run a command based on that. So it has very many applications. These are just some of the things that you can do with it. You can also print out the value as well. So you can use it to debug and stuff, which we'll be actually doing today. So we'll be just printing out the dimension ID, and we'll be able to see what we're going to get from that. So let's go ahead and pop up MCreator, and then we'll give this a quick try. Alright, so we're currently in game. All I need to do is right click on the block in a provided dimension, and then we can go ahead and get the registry or the data from that particular value. So if we right click on it, we can see that we get a bunch of text over on our debug side where console is. We get quite a bit of stuff that isn't useful to us. For example, the resource, I think it's caller or cell or something. I think a resource key maybe. And then there's the brackets and then Minecraft dimension. So I think that part up to the slash is pretty much useless for most things. but we do get the registry of the namespace and the dimension ID. So we can actually use that in commands when we need to use something like, for example, /set block, and then we have our position, and then we use, oh, pardon me, we need the execute command, execute in, and then, for example, we need to get the registry and namespace. So we can actually use this basically data that we got in our custom commands, and then we can run it from basically any command, including modded if we really wanted to. So we can run that directly through a right-click procedure or any other global trigger, and then we can basically get the dimension, format that down into something that we can use, and then we could basically turn that into value that we could create text with. Now, we're directly printing this block out, but if you wanted to use a combination of the value with a whole bunch of other stuff, like, for example, with that value that we got here, we can actually crop a lot of this out with the replace block. So what we would do is we would go ahead and replace everything up to that space after the slash there, and we would basically replace that with basically nothing, which is just absolutely nothing. It's no spaces or anything. And then what we would do is, for the last part, we would also replace the bracket at the end, and then we could basically use create text with, because we can't actually put this in here right now because it's not a string, but if we convert it to a string, we can. So we can actually turn this into something that we can manipulate. And there you go. We got something that will actually crop out everything and just replace something that we want with that particular thing. So let's go ahead and format this into a command next. Since we have Minecraft already up, we can use this to help with the command. So let's go ahead and do something like execute in, and we'll just use this as a placeholder for now. And then we can do something like set, run, set block, and then we'll do these little curly bracket things or dashes, and then we could do something like Minecraft diamond block, and then we'll replace. I think that would work probably fine. And then we can go ahead and just copy this whole entire command. We're going to use create text to copy this part out, because we don't want to use the dimension that we have here. We want to use it whatever dimension they right click in, right? So let's go ahead and do this with this block here. So how can we actually do this? Well, we have the command, so we know what we want to do with it. We need to run it from a world, so we're going to run a world command here, and then we're actually going to just pass this over to a string, so it's a little bit easier to use later on. So we don't need to use that whole entire script there. It just makes it a little bit more compact when we need to reuse that dimension key. So let's go ahead and do something like I'll just call it dim for dimension, and we'll set it as a string, save it, and rather than print it out, what we're going to do is we're going to assign it to a string variable that we just created, and then we can start creating our text here for our command. So what I like to do usually is just to paste the command in a separate string block. It usually comes with one, so that's all good. We don't need the slash at the front. That's already provided with the slash right here, so we don't need that part. We can actually get most of this part right here, and we'll just copy that out, and we'll paste that in here. Now, when you're working with commands and stuff, always make sure that the spaces are properly set out for your command. You might have noticed that I basically have no space on this part. That's deliberate, because this is not going to have a space when we're actually going to print this out. So we want to make sure that between these two texts here, we have a space, because that's what the command requires. So in this case, what we have is in space, and then what we want to do is we want to get our variable. And then we're going to go ahead and grab our space here, and we're going to crop out everything that comes after that overworld part. So right here, we don't need that, but we do need the text and everything behind it. So we're going to go ahead and print this out on this side, and that should be all that we need to do. Just make sure that when you're copying things that your spaces are properly basically structured, because if it's not, your command won't run. So let's go ahead and place that in here, and we can plop that down here, and we don't need the print block anymore. So that should be all that we need to create this particular thing. Now, if it doesn't run, then most likely that our command is wrong, because this is already cropping out all of the stuff that we don't need for the command, like the bracket here, the ending bracket, and we're also cropping out the first part, which we don't need. So everything that's going to be left is just the namespace like we had in our command for the dimension. So if that's the case and it does print out properly for you, then you can always print this value directly out. If that's not printing out something, then obviously fix that, address that issue, and make sure that it's cropping out anything like spaces or anything like that. You might have forgotten the space here. That's okay, that's normal. We can go ahead and then double check our command, make sure that it's properly set up, including spaces, because it is space sensitive. So in this case, I know this will work fine because I can see that there's 2 spaces between our variable, and that will be perfect. So let's go ahead and save that, and then we'll go ahead and pop in game. All right, so we're in game now, and we can right click on any particular block that we want, and it should turn it into a diamond block. Now we can go actually into another dimension. Let's go into the nether. So slash execute in, and then we'll go to nether, and then we'll go ahead and run TP, and then we'll do @s for the player, and then we'll do location. It doesn't really matter. We're going to probably end up in a underground anyways, so we'll do that. So teleport us here. I'll have to kind of dig our way out. This is probably good enough for our test. So let's go ahead and right click on it, and you can see that it got the dimension for the one that we were in. There's a pigment around here. So we can actually set the block in here. This is still running the set block command, so we can basically run that, and it's basically just allowing us to right click in any dimension. So that's pretty cool. Outside of that, that's pretty much all I need to show for this particular block. It's very useful. I'm sure you'll find many other uses with it. If you're new to my channel, don't forget to subscribe, comment down below, rate the video, and if you're new to my community, I do have a Discord server, so if you want to join, the link is on my website. I'll leave the link to the website page in the description, so you guys can go to there and then join the Discord server directly. Outside of that, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.